Welcome to the Business Spotlight. It's your host, Elaine Walsh-McGrath, and today, I am shining the light on this beautiful Amber Chalus, who is such an inspiration. I really hope that she inspires you as much as she inspired and helped me. More about that as we chat through. She is the fabulous, fabulous founder of a community that is mwah, it's called Biz Sister, and you can find all her gorgeous designs at bizsister.com. And who knows what else? For this woman is fabulous and constantly evolving, which I love about her. So, for people who are living under a rock and don't know you or what you do, let's start with the first question, Amber. What do you do?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a little while now, and I love to talk about what I do, even though everyone locally, where I live in a tiny town in Northeast Saskatchewan, Canada. So 90% of the people listening here will have never heard of where I live and will never hear about it again. But when I talk to people in the public, they're like, what is it you do? And I've come to the conclusion that just saying like, oh, I design websites and I just leave it there. It's kind of like the equivalent if you're a creator and you are a coach. The easiest way to just be like, oh, I wrote a book or something, because most people don't understand the online world. But I do create websites, and the websites are usually tied to things like teaching Canva, creating digital designs and digital products, digital courses. Or right now, I also have a community of female business owners called Biz Club, and that also is a website. So I create websites, uh, but they're usually tied to business creatives, entrepreneurs, that kind of thing.
Amazing, honestly.
Mhm.
So amazing. So, um, that it just is fascinating, especially I know really deeply what you do,
Mm.
but just to try to then explain it to somebody on
Yes.
LinkedIn who doesn't. Let's talk a bit about like why did you start your business?
Oh my gosh. Well, originally when I started my business, I'm one of those people who had a hard time choosing what they want to do with their life. So finishing school, traveled a bit, living your parents' basement, like just kind of getting by. And then when I finally found, the whole coaching and teaching space, I became a yoga teacher and a health coach. So I did that for a few years, which was very time intensive. So teaching workshops, retreats, classes, live in person, you have to show up. Where I live, it can be like minus 40, and teaching yoga classes at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. You get home at like 9. When I had my daughter, I was like, this is not going to work. I can't leave my house in the evening. I don't enjoy it in general, but when there's a screaming child at home and I'm supposed to try and be calm and then, start my vehicle to go heat it up, it wasn't an enjoyable experience. So I took all of the assets I had created for my own business. So digital assets for creating worksheets for retreats and classes and workshops, and I turned those into digital products that I could sell online to other people who had businesses similar to mine. So if they were a yoga teacher or a coach, if they needed assets like I did, and originally I didn't even have Canva, I had created all of these things using anything originally it would have been on my PC laptop, and it would have been in Microsoft something. And then eventually I did get a Mac computer, and I was using Pages, but it was all like very rudimentary. Everything was like custom designed. And then when I found Canva, I was able to take the exact designs, put them into Canva, then share them as templates as digital products with people who could teach classes and workshops and retreats. And I could stay in my pajamas and design them. So that worked out well.
It's such a good idea, and that's how I found you because I needed a coaching agreement template, and
Mm,
I'm a coaching workbook, I think. And
mhm.
I asked I asked in a yoga group or something like that, like, does anybody have an idea? And here I am in Dublin, Ireland, okay, which I just love about this and
The
our
world is so
relationship, you
small.
know? Um, and I said, does anybody know? And what they said was, so listen
Mhm.
hard and fast, everybody. And Amber, in case you don't know how amazing you are, because someone was like, oh my God, you've got to check out Amber Chalus's Biz Sister. She is amazing. It's such a great community. You get all this additional support. You've got to go check her out. And I was like, oh, well, sounds like a no-brainer to me. So, um,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of almost as well what you have taught me in when I did one of your programs, is that adding that community aspect to an offer just makes it just go, poof, it just blows it
Yeah.
up. And then you have that like social proof and leverage where people
Yes.
kind of go, wow, no, you got to check out this one because this one isn't just on Etsy.
Mm.
This one has like real support. And so yeah, like my next question was going to be like, what type of client do you work with? But I just think like you've built a community. It's not just websites.
Mm.
I think
Yes.
it's that you sure you build websites, but more than that, like you've got that real connector energy and you build communities, you know?
Yes. And I was really intentional about that in the beginning because that primarily when I started selling the digital products, first of all, I didn't wanna I hate looking at competition because I have such an anxiety about accidentally copying people. So, like, once I know something is valuable to people, I'm like, I don't go on Etsy, I don't look at ads, I turn off, like, all I have ad blockers everywhere because 'cause I'm like, if I look at anyone's stuff and I inadvertently step on toes, like, I'm just too sensitive. So I try and do things like I'm like, if it didn't come from my soul and it doesn't, I'm not gonna put it out there. So when I came up with Biz Sister, because the name was a huge part of it, I have actually multiple other domains I bought before that were like, meh. But Biz Sister, I was like, okay, this is gonna work. I will launch a Facebook group along with the business. And the Facebook group will originally just start out as just being for customers and clients so that I can kind of like communicate. And then it evolved and became more of like, even if you didn't necessarily, you weren't a customer of mine, but you were a business owner, it would be a safe space to go to and ask questions or be a part of. So the group I think was very, very important. And I very much have tended over the years. Like you had to, well, even now you have to request to have access. It's private. So you can't like your content's not being shared to the entire world. Like I tend to the group almost more intentionally than most people would a group. My goal wasn't for it to be massive. When Facebook share, like there's the feature where it shares to the world, I would, turn off Facebook's share feature so it wasn't just pushing it to random people. And then obviously just like tending to who's posting and what they're posting, just kind of cultivating the space. So there's that is a huge part of it. And I think that, like you said, if people feel safe there, they're more likely to return. And then with the business side, I have assets and digital products that they can use, but they don't have to necessarily use them. So Biz Sister is probably more like something I could be more proud of than even the business side of it is what I've been able to create with the community because it's the people inside of it more than it's me at this point. And from my original business, I had once heard Marie Forleo say, when it comes to naming your business. My original business, I did once play with the idea of naming it something separate from my name. But she said, if you want the business to evolve, call it your name. So like if you're Amber Chalus could be a coach, she could be the author, she could be this. But if you ever plan on selling the business or hiring team members to represent you in the business, you should name the business something. So instead of it being Amber Chalus Design, which would just tie the business to me, I named it Biz Sister, which means that yes, I create things for Biz Sister, but Biz Sister is its own thing, and I'm just a part of the community, not this like spearhead leader like Amy Porterfield would design a business.
I know. I love it. I love it. And talk to me a bit like about the evolution of your client base. Like, is it still very like soul-based clientele? What kind of
Mm-hmm.
people are in your community?
I've I've had to learn over time about who I'm best to work with, as we all do. It's so funny because when you start, you're like, oh, I could help everybody with everything, and I see this all the time with people inside of my community. They're like, oh, I can create everything, so I will create everything. And even me, not even me, everyone, no matter where you are in your business, if you are an expert of something, there will be people who come to you who want more of certain topics. And it can be tempting to be like, oh, I will help all of you people with all of these things. But nobody can help everyone with all the things. And you're always going to you're always going to let somebody down. So I've come to the conclusion, because with the types of products I create, if somebody needs a DIY like template that they're going to be using for their business, they're generally not being able to afford a designer to design it for them. Or they like to DIY. They like to do it themselves. They like the process. So they're actually more like solopreneurs, creatives, coaches, that they actually enjoy the process of creating things. And it's all, I wouldn't say that they're people who are hobbyists with their business, but like the same way that a quilter would collect quilts, quilting supplies, they'd be like, okay, I want my business to have this and this. And I used to think, oh, every individual person is coming and they want to make as much money as possible and make their business into a corporation. Obviously not, but the idea was like, oh, every person coming, they just want to make money from their business and live their life. But that's not the truth. The majority of people who come to Biz Sister, they have something in their heart, they have something in their soul that they want to bring out into the world. And they like the process of creating things that they can share with others through their business. So they're creative, they're soulful, they're heart-filled. They want to make, they want to have a part in it. They don't just want to hire a website designer or hire a graphic designer to create something that's going to be high converting. What they really want is they want to take what's in them, put it out there and to attract the people who need it the most. And I think that's more the type of people that I work with now. Whereas before, the idea was like, oh, any business owner, but it's not really any business owner. It's more like any business owner who has like a real love of their craft.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. Yes. And yes, from observing the people in the community, I concur. You know? What do they love about working with you then? What do they love about being a Biz Sister?
From what I can tell, because I can't tell you exactly, because I have trouble appreciating what my skills are, but what I can say is that I do have a way of simplifying things, because I am also a DIYer. So because I am not professionally trained graphic design, professionally trained website design, or I come from a very similar starting place. Oh, what is this button? What does it do? Do I need this button? And I kind of learn as I go along. So when I turn around and I create a tutorial for a particular product, so I create a digital template for a website, if I go through the process myself, it might be time consuming and almost feel like a not good use of my time, because I could hire somebody to do that for nothing. But as I go through the process, I'm like, oh, this is how this works and this is how it's supposed to work. Now, when I turn around and create a video or training, or I answer a question in an email I get from someone, I'm coming at it from, oh my gosh, I know what you mean. I also struggle with that thing. This is how I would do it. This is how it works. And this is like how you can move forward. So I think my approach to learning it myself first and then turning and teaching is different than a lot of people who are experts in their field, who just turn around and teach a lot of theory. They're like, oh yeah, in theory, you should do this thing because that's what you're supposed to do. But I've also hired out this job for the last 10 years. So I'm just telling you what I think you should do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly why they love working with you, because you can break it down, and because you show them every step of the way. Yeah. 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 What part of your business do you enjoy the most?
Unfortunately, making new things. Like, it's not to my advantage that I'm like, oh, bird, flower, sunshine. I'm so excited about new things. It's probably not to my advantage, because to work on one project or work on one product and take it to its absolute peak of what it could be is probably best case scenario. And I have told people that in the past, like, find your one thing, create your one course and make it as exceptional as it can be, and be the person in that. The way that I move through the life is that I'm always interested in new things. So I'm like pulling from all these different places. And what excites me the most is being able to learn new things. So if you put me in a position where I'm stuck in the original place of my business, oh, I make this for this type of people. And really what I should be doing is maximizing that. Instead, I'm like, oh, actually, I want to make this other thing. I want to make this other thing. And that definitely holds me back from probably the potential of what a business could be. Like even building Biz Sister, the Biz Sister group and community, it could be exponentially bigger, and it probably could give me returns in different ways than I am getting now. So like I could have podcasting opportunities, and I could have this and that, and then bring people to my group. But I like that it's kind of more intimate. So I kind of cap everything I do, just a little just a little bit smaller than I think some people would want them to be.
But that's okay. And you know what?
Mhm.
Like, and this is what I love about just my journey to through the world and even the business spotlight is that we're all different. And in a way,
Yeah.
that's why I'm doing the business spotlight, because
Mhm.
I think that there is a very common idea of like what business looks like.
Mhm.
And particularly for women, I want to show them that no, there isn't.
Mhm.
And that actually, the skill set that you have that maybe people were like, oh, can't talks too much in class, or like can't
So
pay
true.
attention. Well, because yeah, you're a dreamer, or
Mhm.
yeah, like just 1 minute it's playing the piano and the next is playing tennis, like that's okay.
Yeah.
you
That
know
is totally my brain.
it's okay. We all have our talents, and there's a purpose for all of them. And business, even on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, everybody,
Yes.
it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like so. It can
Mhm.
it can be outside the 9 to 5. You can run a really successful business like yours, with children,
Mhm.
in a town in the back of nowhere. I had actually heard of Saskatchewan before I met you because my godmother is moved to Canada donkeys years ago,
Oh my
back in the
gosh.
70s. So, yeah, like this is what my passion to show is to show people these things are possible. Like, just it's
Yeah.
okay, and the more I learn about my own differences and my own mind and soul makeup, the more I'm like, okay, let's lean into that. Let's lean into that. Let's
Yeah.
listen to ourselves. The more you listen to yourself, the better you do. And fine, that might not be, like you say, super financial in terms of like, yeah, sure, Biz Sister could be huge or whatever.
Yeah.
But screw it, then it wouldn't be yours. So it's like, what do
Yeah.
you mean? You know what I mean? Like, so
It's really hard to not compare yourself. Like I see other well, we all do. You see businesses in your field and you're like, "Oh, wow, that looks epic." But I also, as somebody who comes from a family of like small business owners, my mom owns two businesses locally, in-person businesses. And she's had them for years. My grandfather has one. They're like really small town businesses. But like the staffing side of it, like I see that and I think like that's a whole nother skill set to be the type of leader who, so let's say that you have this dream, this aspiration of becoming like really, really big in your niche and industry. Those individuals are not doing it on their own. So if you have like interest of doing like all the little pieces of your business, they've had to hand off a lot of it. They're showing up like this and they're spending 12 hours doing interviews. They're not answering emails. They're not meeting with clients. Like there comes a point when you are disconnected from the craft that you do. So the question isn't just like, how big do you want your business to be? It's, do you want to be like the face of a business that has a lot of people in it? Or do you want to be the business? And there's nothing wrong with either of them. You just have to be very hyper aware of which it is that you want, because like, it's so deceiving when you see people online presenting as if they are like the business, and then you're looking at it going like, oh, if I want their success, I need to do all the email sequences, I have to have all the funnels, I need to have all the social media platforms rocking, I need to be doing TikTok, I need to do this. It's like, actually, you could make a living like income from a single social media platform, just showing up there as yourself to the people who need you. but it looks like you need to have what they have. But they also have a team of 50 people. So do you want a team of 50 people, or do you want to just make enough for you to do what you love and take care of your family? What is it actually what you want?
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, and I was just saying, as I did a training the other day for a women's group, that I love that quote, from Alice in Wonderland, where she comes across the Cheshire Cat and is asking, I don't actually have it in front of me now, but she's asking like, oh, like, tell me which way to go. And he's like, well, do you know where you want to go? And she's like, well, no. And he goes, well, then you can go in any direction. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Yes, that is
Yeah.
so true. How can we move
Yeah.
towards something if we don't know what we're moving towards? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so it's so deceiving thinking like, "Oh, that person is where I wanna go." Well, they're presenting where you want to go. It's a media outlet. So, it's just like watching a film of, like, a perfect romantic story and being like, "Oh, that is what love represents. I need to aspire to that level of everything in terms of relationship." And then your real life relationship having all of these challenges and compromises and being like, "Well, this isn't love." Well, that's media. They've made that film to represent what somebody's idea of love is. That is the exact same thing with everything online. Every brand is a representation of what the person who's created the brand wants you to believe about that person. It's not actually who they are. So you can't aspire to become something that doesn't exist. So you need to know exactly who you are, and also you need to know who you want to represent to the world, because ideally we'd all represent the truth, but that's not how the internet works. People are only going to take in what they see. So unless you're going to film your life 24/7, they're only going to see what you represent to them. So yeah, you can be and represent anything online in your business, and be careful what that is, and be careful who you admire because of what they have or they are showcasing.
Yeah. Oh, amen, sister. Exactly. Oh, such good advice. And speaking of advice, what advice would you give a new business to increase their visibility? I'm really interested to hear this from you
Yeah.
because you've gone a different way. So, what would your
Yes, I
advice
know.
be? I know, but that's
I
okay. That's why
it's
I like asking these
my
questions.
best advice is unfortunately not something that I've been focused on just in the last couple of years, because I had my son a couple of years, well, a year and a half ago, and I've been less active online. So, you should know 2 things. I had a business before, which was the yoga and coaching business, and that I did all organically, 100% organically. So, I did a lot of podcast interviews. I had my own podcast, so I interviewed other people, which would allow them to share me with their audience. I did a lot of free challenges. I did like live workshops or events or free classes, that type of thing. So, I did it the organic way. Live streamed on Periscope. Honestly, even live stream on Periscope worked, if you can believe it. Um, Live Facebook videos, streams, that kind of realm. And there's nothing wrong with it. And I still believe that organically posting where your audience is the best way if you do not have money to advertise. Because with Biz Sister, I kind of was like threw all caution to the wind. I was like, this has to work. So I'm going to take my last $500 that I have of my own, and I'm going to put it into Facebook ads. And as long as the product works and I can break even, I will just keep promoting it. So unless you do have the ability to hire an ad agency and run ads, you're kind of left with organic. Now, what works today in organic is going to be different from when I started, but like all of us, it's kind of nerve-wracking because you're looking at TikTok and you're looking at Instagram and you're looking at Facebook, and it all seems very overwhelming. It's hard to compete. And the best advice I guess I could give you is that if you can supply some type of value, consistent value to a specific audience, that's the best thing you can do. This could look like, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend Facebook, because anything you post to Facebook disappears into the void, disappears. You will never see it again. Facebook wouldn't be my recommendation. But if you did like a live show on YouTube, or a weekly video went on YouTube, or you had a consistent show that came out on LinkedIn like this, And they knew with consistency that this was going to be coming out. So you had a newsletter where every week they got the video, they got the show, or on YouTube, they got the show. Because with my original business, and even with this one, I had a newsletter came out. And when people expect you to show up in their life on a consistent basis, you almost like get a place. So if they listen to your podcast every Monday, and even if they haven't worked with you yet, every Monday they listen to you, they will eventually buy from you. So this could be a YouTube video, it could be a podcast, it could be a live stream show, whatever it is, create some type of consistent calendar where you are showing up in people's lives and helping them in some way. That is probably the best way to build a close relationship with people that leads them to working with you. If it's some type of inconsistent type of posting where you're like posting a picture every once in a while, people can't rely on you. And if they can build you into their life, like every Sunday morning, I listen to so and so's podcast about blank. It's like it could be a 10-minute podcast, but if they build you into their life, they will eventually return to you, or they'll recommend you when they need, like when somebody asks about your topic. But if you are not consistently showing up in people's lives, they will forget about you. They will go to your alternatives. So I think organically that is going to be the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. So, what's next? What's the dream for your business within the next, I don't know, year?
I've in the last couple of months, I've kind of I'm trying to level things out a little bit more with Biz Sister and just create a little bit more consistency in it. So I'm like, okay, I have my paid community, I have my Facebook group. Could I scale? Could I make it bigger? And then I look at the people who have large front facing communities in the business space. And I don't think that I want to have the type of team I would need to build to that size to be able to support that many people. So at the level I'm at right now, I think I can kind of maintain this. So with that in mind, I think just maybe, not maybe, one of the best services I can provide to my community is to teach them new things. And I can only teach them new things if I'm learning new things. So if I'm spending all of my time like in my business, like troubleshooting old things, I can't bring new things to the audience. So I'm kind of like balancing between creating for Biz Sister, maintaining it, but also like learning new things, just looking at different things that are being out there. Like print on demand really fascinates me. I don't create any templates really for print on demand, but I think that some people would be interested in me creating stuff like that. I created a website template for Canva. I haven't scaled like promoting it because I don't believe that everyone should have a Canva website template, but I think a lot of people could use a Canva website template. So maybe making more of those templates or like variations of them might be helpful. And I do have a goal of eventually having a consistent YouTube channel, because I do think that it's once my kids aren't in my house screaming and crying, if I was really smart, I would have had a YouTube channel years ago, but I do know that that's on my cards, is that I will have a consistent YouTube channel at some point where I'm creating content on a consistent basis for the audience that I have.
Brilliant. Look, I mean, that is
Yeah.
so brilliant. Like that's a solid dream. Like, I mean, that is,
Yeah.
that's a lot, So,
Oh, listen, I've been trying to do this YouTube thing for so long, but I've got such a perfectionism to me. It's like everybody. Everyone's like, I want to create a course, but it has to be a perfect course. And I'm like, I want to launch on YouTube, but I want it to be well done. Making things perfect is definitely what holds a person back, but hustle culture is a real thing. And I also don't like the idea of pushing myself to my absolute brink. So it's like a pacing yourself. Okay, what do I actually really want? Where do I actually really go? How much time do I really want to spend? Just getting clear on those things is really important.
Yeah, it really is. And that leads me to my final question, which is what I'm sure people are dying to know right now. How can they work with you?
Well, you should come and join us over at Biz Sister. So there are two kind of avenues. We've got our free Facebook community, Biz Sister, where you can come and chat about business. You can kind of share your business and talk to people about your business or ideas. over inside the free group. And then I also have a paid community. It's on Circle. I decided to have a non-Facebook option for people who wanted to be a part of the community without having to log into their Facebook account, because the dreaded Facebook account just eats your time. Yeah, so I have a paid community over at Biz Club. So if you go to bizsister.com, you'll see a link there so you can check that out as well. And in there, I've got free classes. Well, not, I guess it's a paid community, but I've got classes and tutorials and bonus templates. And yeah, it's a private community on Circle. So I really like it. It's a nice, for all of you people who are building communities, there always is going to be a point where you have an audience of people who aren't working with you and like follow you, and then you have people who want to work with you. And it's always nice to have a space where you can kind of differentiate them, because for the longest time with Biz Sister, I didn't want to have a paid community, and I was like, oh, I don't need to have a paid community, I have my free one. But when you have all these emails coming in, you never know which of these people are going to take my advice. Like, how much time can I put into a back and forth email with somebody who spent $10 with me over 5-year period? That's like, oh, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me with this thing? And it's like, well, because I don't do one-to-one coaching, like, I guess I can continue to help you or just ignore you. Or here's an option where you can get more support, but it's not necessarily, it's a really nice way to kind of find out who really wants to learn to work with you. And I like that about it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. As I always say, people who pay attention.
Yeah. Well said.
Oh, it's been so, so lovely talking to you today on the Business Spotlight. Thank you so much. And oh, I love it. Watch the space, everybody, and check out bizsister.com. Thanks so much, Amber.
Thanks, you